Okay, we do have all 5 board members with us right now and several staff members as well. So we will, at this point, call to order this meeting of the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board for Wednesday, August 19th. Roll call of members. The chair is present. Member Reeves.
Present.
Member Eng.
Present.
Member Allen.
Virtually here.
And member Kent Monning.
Present.
Okay, let the minutes show that all members are present. We'll move now to approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was July 15th, 2020. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes?
So move.
Okay,
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes of July 15th. We'll just do a roll call vote. The chair votes aye. Member Reeves.
Excuse me. Aye.
Member Eng.
Aye.
Member Allen.
Aye.
And member Kent Monning.
Aye.
Okay, then the minutes of July 15th meeting are approved. Now we begin with item 3 on our agenda, which is the chair's report. First thing on my report is to welcome everyone, to let you know we are conducting a Zoom meeting headquartered in San Diego County. That's where the chair is right now, and also the interim executive director, Mike Kutry. Other members and staff are scattered throughout the state, with I guess the bulk of the members in Sacramento. We are pleased to have everybody joining us today. I want to talk a little bit about this meeting. Each month the board meets. Usually a meeting takes anywhere from an hour to a couple of hours, plus any closed session we might have. The amount of public comment, of course, has a lot to do with the length of the meetings. But the vast majority of the board's work is not done at the meetings, but done between meetings. That's when the board members hear appeals of cases that had already been decided at our field office level, but which one party or the other disagrees with the initial decision and files an appeal. And in the last month alone, our board has heard 1,340 appellate cases. So board members have been busy. Our case numbers are rising each month now. I want to talk a little bit about that. And this is directed to the board members. I know I've talked to some of you about how with the additional cases coming in and with the PUI and the PUA and the other types of cases we're getting, some of you would like to look at perhaps some advanced training and refreshers. And we're talking, Executive Director Kutry and I have talked about that, and something will be planned in the next month or so for those who feel they need it. If you don't want to attend, board members, you don't have to. But look to your email for further information about additional training. You've gotten lots of training from very good ALJs, both at the field and at the appellate level already, but there have been some scattered trainings, and there's also almost like daily developments. So this will be an all-in-one-place update for those who want it. Again, more on that coming up in the future. The additional item I want to report on is what I discussed at the labor agency meeting yesterday. There was a meeting of leaders from all of the agencies under the labor secretary. And we talked about several things relevant to this board, one of which, of course, is Governor Newsom's executive order this week that all offices close between 3 and 5 p.m. because of the stress put on our grid by air conditioning and other electricity needs. So we have been closing all of our offices around the state at 3 o'clock this week. People who've had hearings after 3 o'clock have still had their hearings, but they've been done with judges remotely and not taking any electricity off the grid in our various offices around the state. So that's been one of the more interesting developments this week. And of course, with the fires now, we're waiting to see what impact that might have on our various local offices. Additionally, just want to report that, as I mentioned, judges for the most part are teleworking now, but we have a total of about 152 employees, which is more than 40% of our workforce, that are working from home via telework. So things have changed dramatically over the last 4 or 5 months. Um, Last thing I want to mention is that PUA claims, as of July 31st, you board members have received more than 5,000, in fact, close to 6,000 PUA claims. And those are claims that are new this year that obviously before the pandemic didn't exist. So it's adding to the workload. And I want to thank you all. You're doing an incredible job of when the cases come to you, you get them out and get them done in a very fair and friendly manner. So thank you for that. And that really concludes my report for now. Let's turn to members' reports. And first, we'll start with Vice Chair Dan Reeves. Member Reeves?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a report, although I do want to thank you for the offer on additional training around POA benefits. I have watched the training and the materials, but additional training would be extraordinarily helpful. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Now to Member Eng.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I wanted to address Interim Chief ALJ Executive Director Michael Quitree. We're truly very sorry for your loss, and we appreciate your work ethic even during this difficult period. On another note, I really appreciated the update that you provided on the appeals modernization, and I'm glad to see that we're at, I think, stage 4 and looking forward to the vendor kickoff. Well, Jody, I never thought I would enjoy going back to law school, and I mean that in a good sense. Of course, I'm referring to the materials that Mr. Chair referenced that we're receiving regarding the appeals on COVID-19. I really appreciated Mr. Harrison's, Judge P.J. Harrison's presentation and the flow chart that he referenced as a good overview tool, thanks to Assistant Chief of Field Operations, Seal Harrison. Judge Schissel's synopsis reminded me of the day when I bought all those Gilbert's law summaries when I was in law school, and the standard and board paragraphs are already appearing in our cases, so that's very timely. I appreciate the effort so far, and I look forward to the additional training that I know is coming, and thank you to those members that requested it. As we tweak the process of learning and applying the law in this new landscape, as my first-year law professor in constitutional law said after we didn't quite understand, he said, "Don't worry, we have 14 more weeks and 3 more years of your training." Finally, Jody, I want to tell you it's been a real pleasure working with the 5 additional appellate ALJs, including the RAs and the current FOALJ. It's been really great to collaborate with them on the cases, and they really bring a great deal of experience and knowledge, which I personally benefit from. That's all for me, Mr. Chair, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Now turning to Member Allen.
Yes, thank you, Member Chair. I'm very grateful for the additional materials that we've gotten, and there are nuances. It's a lot of it is new in terms of what we're used to, at least for someone who's been on this board for a very, very long time. I find it really challenging and interesting because it is nuanced. The other thing that I'd just like to say is it does not go unnoticed, and I always try to bring it up in my board reports, that the resilience and the flexibility at all levels of our organization are really appreciated, whether it's line workers, our judges, management, or other board members. I feel that it's a time of extreme stress for our country and also for this state. And I think that people are really up to the challenge, and I'm just very gratified by that. And the last thing I'd like to report is that I've so enjoyed working with the members of our newsletter team. And I'm grateful to all the folks that are providing us with articles and content. And it gives us a unique window into what is happening, at least for this board member, into what is happening with some of our field offices, which I think is happening all over the state, and just brings me feeling closer to the level of where our folks are out in the field doing this work, whether it's in the offices or at home. And I'm just extremely grateful. And then just to conclude, I've had to evacuate twice during the last 3 years with fires, and my heart goes out to all Californians today and all over the nation where we're dealing with either fire, tornadoes, freak winds, you name it. It's been one hell of a 2020. And so I think my heart is with all those folks who are dealing with disasters and have had to be resilient and find ways to work their way through it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Now we move to member Ken Tamani.
Thank you, Chair Block. Just quickly to echo on my colleagues' sentiments of thanking everyone at the agency who's been working tremendously hard as we have an increase of cases and then working through new laws. And I especially want to shout out to those who've been working hard to train all of our new ALJs. That's a tremendous amount of work, and I've heard that it's been going really well, and I wanted to acknowledge that. And also to the employees who continue going into the physical offices every day. That is a unique situation, and we really appreciate that there are still so many people going in and working on the front lines to provide this essential service to Californians. And last, as Michael said, I'm just really thinking of everyone throughout the state affected by these fires. It's just so hard to even track how many there are, where they are. The area of my childhood home was evacuated. My family's not there, but you know, and I know Member Allen's gone through it, but people are really facing challenge upon challenge right now, and everyone at our agency is still having to provide this service to people in California who rely on it. So I just wanted to say that I'm thinking of everyone and hoping that people are safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And just to clarify for anybody who may be watching, the role of the board, whether for votes or comments, after the chair, we go to the vice chair, and then the members are called upon in the order they were appointed. So Member Eng, then Member Allen, then Member Kent Monning. So that is the reason for the order that you see for each issue. And now we're going to move to public comment. A few comments by me first, and that is that if members of the public have any comments to make, they will have up to 5 minutes to make their comment. Public comments will be timed, and at the end of 5 minutes, if folks have not finished, they will be asked to wrap up. For members of the public who may have any confusion at all, EDD processes the intake of unemployment claims, and we don't really address any claims until after EDD has made a recommendation or disposition, and if either party appeals the disposition by EDD, then we will hear the case. As a result, our board acts as judges in these cases, and we can't have any conversation with you about your individual case or individual facts. So public comment is indeed just a chance for members of the public to make comments. It's not a time for dialogue. So you will have your 5 minutes. At the end of the 5 minutes, if there are issues that you raised that need to be addressed further, our staff will handle that after the meeting, separate from the meeting. But again, board members, until you're a party before us, cannot comment on your cases. With that, I'll ask Jeff, do we have any members of the public waiting to speak?
Unmute myself. It appears as though we have 2 hands raised at this time. I'm communicating with them to see if they have statements to make.
Okay.
So we have Ben Hermes as the first person to raise his hand from the public.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, Ben, welcome back. You've spoken to us before. You have up to 5 minutes to make your comments.
Thank you very much, Chair Block. Everyone able to hear me?
Yes, you're just fine.
Excellent. So yes, this is my 3rd time speaking in front of your board in the last 4 months. It is a ongoing process, and I do appreciate your time, although honestly I have not seen any sort of resolution to all of the issues that all of my compatriots are bringing up to your board each month. I want to start off by saying that I was denied on my first round appeal. I submitted my second round appeal on July 29th, and I still haven't heard anything. I can't seem to find anything on the website, on the EDD website. So I'm not sure what to do at this point, because I needed to submit it by August 3rd or 4th. So I was within the time frame, but now I don't know what to do in order to get my case to you guys. If you guys haven't, if you've received it, great. I just need to know, because I heard that it may take 8 to 12 weeks to resolve. So that's issue number 1, is that I'd like to get some sort of indication if my appeals, my second round appeals documentation was sent in, was received by you guys. Second thing is the State Assembly had a hearing with the EDD about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, which really revealed the gross negligence of the EDD over the past 4 or 5 months. And I'm sure you're all aware that, you know, the amount of people that are able to actually get through to an EDD representative, they're looking at 25% of callers being able to get through, and, you know, over 15 million people are unemployed in California. So sheer quantities, it was revealed that only, since March, they now only have 100 trained call center staff between the hours of 8 and 12. So again, for all of these issues that need a trained staff to answer, and again, I've gotten through to those trained staff, and still the very first one hung up on me because I was questioning about the PUA at that point. So, there's a lot of frustration still with the EDD. I know that's not necessarily your realm, but just want to make you aware, if you weren't already, that there's a lot of issues at hand, and they're talking about bringing in a third party to help update the UI experience and the computer coding in October. So why it takes this long, God only knows, but we'll see what happens. Third thing I want to bring up is that Congress has admitted that it is their own fault for my situation and countless others here in the state and also throughout the country, that we have our 1099 earners, we're self-employed, but we have a little bit of W-2 income. And they created the Mixed Earner Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Act of 2020, which Congress people, Schiff and Chu, co-wrote, and there is a Senate version of it as well. This is not a partisan issue. There are Republicans in our situation, there are Democrats in our situation. Why it hasn't passed at this point, I don't know. I know that they've recessed as of last week and won't be coming back until September, so everything is getting pushed off. Which again is unfair to all of us, and who knows if this is even going to pass. And even if it does pass, they have made it in the language impossible to be retroactive for anybody in my situation that has received a penny from their state unemployment assistance up to this point. So the fact that I'm on UI at a very low rate is preventing me now, if this bill passes, to receive the full amount that I should have received if I had not received any money. So there are some drawbacks, but the reason they did this was because they wanted states to support it, even though states need to opt into it in order to make this happen. Long story short, with regards to this, Congress admits that it was their issue. It was their problem. And we're doing everything we can in order to try to keep our families secure, to keep our homes, to keep any loans and leases that we have. And we keep finding ourselves put into situations where we're getting denied just because the CARES Act was worded incorrectly. Congress has already admitted that it was their fault. It needs to pass, but it's already there. And then during a SAG-AFTRA Zoom meeting with Congressperson Chu last week, she spoke about residuals, which is my current situation, that work that I performed 3 to 15 years ago should not be considered as a deciding factor in qualifying for PUA or excessive earnings on a weekly basis. So as of right now, there's been 3 weeks that I haven't been able to receive my small amount of UI because my residual income that has come in has surpassed that. Plus, my residual income is what's causing me to be in this situation in the first place. My appeal to you, Board of Directors, is please lead from the front. Lead with empathy and understand that it is not our fault. I understand it's not written as in law in a bill, but this was a mistake that Congress made. They are acknowledging it as a mea culpa. Please, we beg you, please, when we bring in our appeals, can you please maybe find in our favors so that we can actually get the money that Congress intended us to get? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Appreciate your comments. We'll move on to our second member of the public. Is there another person, Jeff, who wishes to speak?
Yes, Chair Block. We have Kelly to make a public statement.
Okay, Kelly, 5 minutes.
Sure. Hi there. You can hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So like my colleague Ben, you have seen me on 3 of the last 4 seen me, in parentheses, of course, on the last 3 to 4 meetings. And I would like to echo some of the similar comments to him, except mine is a little bit different. So first of all, I'm here in San Diego. So just as I said, you guys were hosting it there from San Diego. I also lost my somewhat expected to lose my round of appeal of PUA for the mixed income or hybrid workers issue or problem, and I have also appealed to the board as well. But like Ben, I actually never heard back any response from my appeal that was forwarded to the board until I talked to someone that's representing me at the Employee Rights Center here in San Diego, and she actually received it, but I received nothing. So just thought maybe that could be a fixed problem there, that someone could also send it to the claimant, the person that actually appealed, and not just to the representative's office. So if I hadn't reached out to her, I would have had no idea that she had received an acknowledgement of letter about my appeal, but I did not. So just kind of going through in that process would be something that I would say. I would also like to echo that another resolution to my problem has come. I had more than one way to resolve my mixed income problem, and one of them being to do a wage audit on one of my employers. But I'm very sad and disappointed and disheartened to say that that process has taken over 3 months, and I haven't been paid during that time of the process at all of doing that. I finally did receive a call yesterday, which should have happened months ago, to resend information that I sent 3 months ago. So I think that's absolutely appalling, and I did listen to the entire assembly board hearing too, and it was, I mean, it's still online. You could go back and listen to it, but it was absolutely devastating to hear people crying and upset about the appalling lack of service that I believe EDD has done to those of us in this state over this crisis. And to hear that only 100 people can respond to most claim requests, and that even when I tried to call multiple times to the new number that is the technical support, just to have someone say, oh, I can't help you. I can't help you. I'll forward it to do a call back. Well, I'm going to tell you, in 4 months, I never received one call back. So obviously that process is broken. People were calling for the director to be fired. After hearing her respond, I can't say that I blame them. Absolutely appalling leadership, I would say, and it makes me very ashamed to be a Californian, which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to be a Californian much longer. So, but appalled to see that process and that to go through, and to have her own employees call and defend the agency on the call felt like very much a setup to me, and I don't think they just did that on their own. So we didn't want to listen to them and all that public comment. They should have just gone away. And lastly, on the third issue, on the hybrid mixed income issue, I'm just going to say I second all of Ben's comments regarding that bill. It needs to be fixed. I, fortunately enough, had one of my employers being Uber, and we all know about the problems California and Uber have had, so I probably will get my wage audit in the process, but I've had to wait 3 months, and the amount of money that's owed to me is close to $7,000. So not to have that $7,000 in 4 months is absolutely terrible, but thankfully it's going to help start my life in another state. But I just, you know, if that goes through, I still haven't gotten official word on that, but the mixed income earners is a big deal. Congress admitted they left it out of the gap, but hasn't done anything about it in 4 months and doesn't seem to care is appalling as well. Thank you for your time.
Kelly, thank you for your comments again, and we all feel for the situation that a lot of Californians are in right now. Just a couple of comments, clearly not directed to any particular cases. One is just to make sure everybody who may be watching is clear. We are not the legislature, and of course the callers who spoke to us know that. We cannot change the rules. We are bound by those rules. We can merely make judgment based on the laws that exist. So we will do that. We will do that as quickly as possible and as fairly as possible. That is my pledge and our board's pledge to all of you. I understand the frustration with some of the rules, whether made in Washington, D.C. or Sacramento, but that's a matter that you have to discuss with your legislators, as I'm sure you've been doing. With regard to getting notice when you have sent things in to let you know that things have been sent or status with our board, I would ask our executive director and staff to take a look at that. And and to make sure that we are letting people know in a timely fashion the status of their claims. You know, as we move into this appeals modernization project, which we'll hear more from Jefferson Willoughby, but as we move toward that, there will be a much quicker turnaround of notices that we've received documents. But we need to make sure we do a good job of that, because we do understand, Kelly and Ben, the awful situation you find yourself in right now. With that, we will move on to our reports from our leadership, beginning with Mike Kutry, our interim chief ALJ and executive director. Mike?
Chair Block, excuse me for a moment.
Yes.
We do have another public statement by Marcia Prohofsky.
Oh, thank you. I thought we'd only had two, but let's hear from Ms. Prohofsky. Go ahead, Marcia.
Hi everyone. It's actually Marcy, and it's Marcy Prohofsky, and I'm really honored to be here, and got on a little bit late, but I came on when Ben was speaking. I'm also a hybrid worker. I've had a really, what do I really want to say? I guess I've had, gratefully, a very positive experience so far with EDD. I managed to be blessed with someone picking up the phone after just 2 calls and was very clear and efficient with me and showing me exactly how to backdate online through that Ask EDD portal. And I've been spreading that around to some of the people that I know in the same hybrid situation, as well as the PUA situation, people that need to backdate. And I'm just also in a bit of that shock of like, oh wow, I would not qualify for any of the federal money going forward, you know, if the minimum amount is going to be $100, because I qualify for a very minimal amount, even though I have higher 1099 income. So I just want to show up to be heard and to thank you all for doing the work you're doing. I know it's a super crazy stressful time for you as well as for all of the earners out there. And yeah, I will stay on the call so I can learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Appreciate that. Apologize for messing up your first name, but I'm glad to hear you've had some success with the system at this point. And Jeff, let me ask you now, are there any other folks waiting to speak to us?
It appears as though we have no more public comments.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. In that case, now we will move to item 6 on our agenda, which is a report by our interim chief ALJ and executive director, Mike Kutry. Mike?
Thank you, Chair Block. I will follow up on those first 2 callers and those issues. Thank you also to Vice Chair Reeves, board members Alan, Eng, and Ken Monning. I'd like to first start with the Department of Labor performance numbers for field operations. I'm happy to report that in July we met all of the Department of Labor metrics, first of which is closing 60% of cases within 30 days, and we exceeded that by reaching 70.9%. The second metric being closing 80% of cases within 45 days, and we met that with 89.4%. We're also sitting comfortably under the 30-day case aging standard, closing our average cases within 28.1 days. On the subject of the pandemic unemployment assistance appeals, which Chair Block mentioned, he mentioned that we received 5,733 appeals since the last week of May. That currently makes up 18% of our new UI appeals at CUIAB. The issues those appeals contain generally, in fact 90% of those are still basic PUA eligibility. That is whether an individual is unemployed, partially unemployed, or unavailable for work as a direct result of the pandemic. We are working on additional materials, statutory materials, and training for the board members and for the ALJs. Those will be to you shortly. We will continue to report the PUA and PEUC extension workload in your key performance indicators handout, so you can always tell what percentage of our workload we're looking at each month. We still have a workload management group that meets weekly. We move work to offices that can handle extra work and offload work to offices that can't, and it has been successful thus far. On the subject of pandemic-related concerns, we continue to be extremely fortunate that we've had no COVID-related office closures at CUIAB. We have had buildings that we share with other tenants that have been impacted, and in those cases, we coordinate closely with the building managers to ensure prompt cleaning of the common areas. With another pandemic-related impact, which is coming very quickly, is the school districts are planning for the vast majority to proceed with telelearning or remote learning, and it's going to impact our staff and judges deeply at all levels. We are exploring more telework opportunities for field operations staff. IT has been hard at work exploring creative solutions for telework, as well as some other projects to streamline the appeals process for our parties. Jefferson Willoughby will go into that in further detail in a couple of minutes. CUIAB is working with EDD to prepare for the possibility that California accepts and implements the Lost Wage Assistance Program, which was put into effect last week by presidential executive order, and we're waiting for further guidance from the governor's office on that program and its applicability to EDD. The other external impacts that Chair Block mentioned is the ordered closure of our offices from 3 to 5 every day for Monday through Wednesday of this week. The field offices worked to accommodate the later scheduled hearings on those days, and they maintained the virtual call center by teleworking so that we minimize the disruption to our public services, and it's been quite successful. I usually conclude with a security update. There's only one to report from the last month. We had an attempted entry by unauthorized individuals into the San Diego office, which was unsuccessful, thankfully. CHP investigated, and there's no further action expected on that issue. In closing, I would like to sincerely express my appreciation to the field offices, to the board, to all of the staff for their support over the last month. It has been an extremely impressive effort by all staff, top to bottom. We closed 23,000 cases last month, all while training new ALJs. And I am continually impressed by the flexibility and dedication, emergency after emergency. The dedication to the parties and serving the public is remarkable as we adjust to each challenge that arises with each new crisis. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mike. We'll just go around the roll to see if there are any questions or comments, starting with Vice Chair Reeves.
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Eng?
None for me. Thank you.
Member Allen?
No questions, just appreciation for the very good job you're doing, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Member Ken Monning?
Likewise. Thank you for all the hard work, Mike.
Okay, very good. We'll move on now to item number 7 on our agenda, report by Jody Remke, our presiding administrative law judge for our appellate operations branch. Jody?
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. I'm just going to go over the DOL guidelines and standards in your packet of information, looking at the 45 days or less requirement, which is at 50%, and you'll see we have made a significant improvement from the last month. We're right now at 44.5%. Last month, as you know, we are only at 4.6%. So we've hit that point where I was predicting that we'd start making the turn. That's in large part due to the assistance of the retired annuitants, so I do want to acknowledge that and thank all of them for their hard work. They really helped us tackle that backlog we were developing. So with them, we've been able to significantly increase our production, and I think that our inventory is now under control, and we're going to be able to stay on top of it, short of a real change in the number of cases being registered. As you can see from the other reports, including the Trends AO report, we have not yet seen the significant increase in AO on appeals. I'm not sure if that's going to come soon or if we'll be leveling off. I think we'll know in the next couple months. As FO has seen the significant increase of the PUA cases. So we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. Again, luckily we have RAs trained and ready to assist us to process these cases timely, and we can use them as we need to over the next few months. So that's our immediate plan as we plan for the future. I also do want to just take a minute on a personal note to thank and recognize Angela Bullard who has been with CUIAB since 2003. So she's been with us for 17 years. Before that, she was with North Carolina Unemployment Appeals Commission. She's an excellent ALJ, as you all know, and she's retiring effective tomorrow. So that is a loss for us and hopefully an exciting time for her. So thank you, Angela, and thanks for all your hard work. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Jody. I want to join you in giving thanks and congratulations to Angela for retiring. Moving on now for comments or questions, Vice Chair Reeves.
I don't have any questions for Jody. Thank you for the presentation, but I would also like to thank Angela for all her years of service and really helping me as a new board member last year, learning this job. She's been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Member Eng?
Yeah, I wanted to also echo Vice Chair Reeves and ask you, Jody, to forward my best wishes to Angela as she moves on. And I made some comments earlier about my appreciation for the training as well as the additional AOs to retired annuitants. And this is the proof in the statistics. Thank you for the report.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Member Allen?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I've so appreciated working with Angela over the years, and I wish her a happy retirement, productive retirement, and also for the retired annuitants coming back and working. For me, it's like, you know, so many of these judges I've worked with in the past, and it's like meeting old friends again with the way they reason cases and their vast body of knowledge they have. So I'm just so pleased we have those retired annuitants that we can rely on, because I think they've really been lifesavers. And Jody, of course, thank you for all your efforts and for sending us materials frequently. So we're trying to stay abreast of all the developments. So thank you, Jody.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Michael. And now to Member Kent Monning.
Jody, I just wanted to thank you for all the time this past month supporting my many questions. And like my colleagues said, with the additional materials to make sure that we are well supported and doing our best work interpreting these new laws. And thank you for telling us about Angela. I've so enjoyed working with her and have learned a lot through case discussions and gotten a lot of support from her with my questions as well. So Angela, I wish you the best of luck.
I'll be sure to pass on all your wishes to Angela. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And Jody, just again, thank you for overseeing the production of cases so that we're back to where you've always had us in the past, before we had to give a lot of appellate support to the field. But we understand that was the hitch, and we understand you're just going to keep going and growing. So thanks so much.
Okay, sure.
Moving on now to report from our Chief Information Officer, Jefferson Willoughby. Jeff?
Muted.
Jeff, you're muted. Jeff, you're muted. Jefferson.
You would have got the perfect report, 100% silence there. Good afternoon, and thanks, Chair Block and members of the board. As referenced briefly during board reporting, I am pleased to let everyone know that the modernization project is on track to have our kickoff meeting, our official kickoff meeting of the project next Monday. Our contracts are signed, and right now we're waiting for the purchase order from our EDD procurement partners. So in the next day or two, we hope to get that. And this is a very exciting time for our organization. It's going to improve our ability to communicate with and serve the public. I'd really like to thank all of the internal subject matter experts who have got us to this point. And I will be reporting, obviously, very regularly to the board on our progress throughout this fiscal year, and we should be getting really close to launching the product a year from today. So that is big news for the organization. Very, very happy to report that we have made that milestone. Regarding commentary from Vice Chair Reeves and Member Eng over the past couple of months in terms of improving IT processes in support of our current hearing model, we've taken steps recently on a couple of fronts. The first is that we've launched a pilot in 3 of our field offices to allow document submission. It's in a very specific type of case via email. So this allows us to process these types of cases very quickly, and it maintains our information security posture. So it's a way for us to communicate with folks who happen to have that type of case via email, and that's new to the organization. We've also developed and are piloting in a field office a web page for our appellants to check in for their hearings. And since we're doing telephone hearings, they can use that web page to give us the phone number that they'd like to be called back at. So our goal is to deflect a significant amount of phone traffic that's currently needing to be answered by staff in the field offices. And of course, again, it gives the appellants another way to contact us and coordinate their hearings. So during these pilot phases, we're going to be gathering some information, some metrics on the number of folks in our system using the tools, along with feedback from the field offices to make sure we make any necessary changes to those tools prior to rolling them out statewide. So look for additional reporting in the next 30 to 60 days on progress in both of those fronts. And that concludes my report for this month.
Thank you, Jefferson. Any questions or comments?
I don't have. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Member Ng.
Yes, Jefferson, first of all, thank you very much for continuing to report on the IT upgrades that Vice Chair Reeves and I. It's refreshing to know that you are keeping up with our requests, even though they may have almost aged out. But that is very refreshing to hear. And also, I wanted to apologize when I was giving credit to the Appeals Modernization Project and the vendor kickoff. It was because Interim Chief Kutry sent me the email under his email, so I wanted to obviously credit him, but as well to give you credit where credit is due. Thank you so much, Jefferson.
It's not just me. Really, the whole organization deserves credit for
Jefferson Willoughby. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Michael Allen.
Yes, Jefferson, I just want to really commend you and the department. You know, we're so heavily dependent on technology right now with the pandemic. And to me, I marvel at how much is going right, because I know with technology, how much can go wrong. And so to me, you know, between the blackouts of power and the various things we've had in terms of going on in the state, to me, just the challenges you guys are facing, I'm sure we don't realize what you have to probably deal with on a daily basis. But anyway, thank you and all your staff, all the IT staff for your work. Thank you.
Thanks. Well.
And Member Ken Monty.
Well, just a quick thanks, Jeff, to you and your whole team. I think the pilot programs you mentioned sound really fantastic, and I'm amazed you have time to launch pilot programs right now, but I look forward to hearing those updates, because those seem like they can be really impactful for everyone who we serve. So thank you.
Thanks.
And CIO Willoughby, just last comment for me. We knew when we hired you with your name that IT would be moving on up. So thank you. And now we go to Rob Silva, our Chief Administrative Services Officer. Rob.
I really don't want to follow that. No, thank you, Chair Block and members of the board. I have a brief update on a few items. As Interim Chief Kutry alluded to, the fact that on August 8th, the federal government authorized the Federal Emergency Management Agency to use disaster relief funds to provide the supplemental payments for the lost wages due to COVID-19. Together with OES, with Office of Emergency Services, the Employment Development Department is submitting the grant application for this Lost Wages Assistance Program. The one-time implementation costs for this program will be included in that application, and we submitted our CUIAB specific implementation estimates to the EDD on August 13th. FEMA isn't requiring that the estimated, they're not requiring the estimated administrative costs for the program to be itemized as part of this initial application. However, the expectation is that California would owe FEMA a grant modification that includes our administrative cost estimates once our application is approved. So with that, CUIAB has a deadline of August 26th to provide those administrative estimates to the EDD. And those estimates will be provided to FEMA when requested by them so that we can be allowed to charge the cost to this new potential funding source. Based on guidance from Department of Labor, we cannot charge any administrative costs or implementation costs associated with this lost wages program to our regular unemployment or federal unemployment insurance funding, which means we need to be very careful in our tracking of this particular workload when it starts to hit us. New charging codes have been established for the lost wages assistance program, and we will be issuing information to all employees as to how to capture that time in our time reporting system. I wanted to update on hires. We've been discussing over the last couple of months that we've brought in a number of administrative law judges to the CUIAB. 16 days ago, we brought in the last 4 ALJs from that group, and now we're focused on support staff hires. We currently have 19 pending hires, either in the advertisement process or starting the application review process in a myriad of classifications, support classifications across our department. We also have an IT position out there that's a backfill from a recent information technology retirement. The candidate pools for many of our job opportunities are quite large. As an example, I'll tell you, for an office technician position in our Sacramento Office of Appeals, we received over 240 applications, about 4 times the norm. With that type of volume, hiring management is going to have to really work to prioritize and review prioritize the review and interview phases of the hiring process. It's imperative that that take place because ultimately all of our hiring packages are approved through the EDD's Human Resources Services Division, and they are understandably experiencing internal process delays. They're currently hiring 4,000 people into their unemployment insurance program branch, and all of their human resources employees are being diverted intermittently to focus on those particular hires. I've been working closely with the EDD during this time to ensure that our hires don't get lost in the fold, and for the most part they've been very receptive and attentive to our requests. Even so, we are experiencing delays beyond the norm with their mass UI hiring. Their UI branch is actually hiring considerably more than 4,000 people. And what I mean by that is there's this really odd thing that's been going on for the last 2 months where many of their new employees have voluntarily separated within a few weeks of being hired. Their human resources can't quite grasp why, but as they're keying new employees, those employees are leaving. And so they're just going right back to the drawing board having to do additional interviews. Again, I and the staff, we're both in constant communication with our representatives at EDD to get our hires in place ASAP, but I wanted to illustrate to the board some of the roadblocks that behind the scenes that are in place. I also have an update with regard to procurement. On July 29th, the procurement process is open for state fiscal year 2020-21, and offices have resumed requesting supplies using the CalCard process. Requests for cleaning supplies and personal protective equipment are being processed fairly timely, and also as a boost, the procedure is still in place by which employees can independently purchase certain cleaning supplies and PPE independently for their offices and be reimbursed by the state by submitting a claim through the CalAiders system. Staying with procurement, I wanted to let you know that with the expected support staff hires that we're doing, 2 of our field offices, Oxnard and Inglewood, have acknowledged that they may not be able to adequately provide in-office social distancing So this week we will be submitting a purchase order for protective acrylic desk and wing panels for those offices to ensure that local distancing requirements will continue to be in place. And we'll also be in contact with other of our field offices as these hires come in to the offices to make sure that, again, our social distancing requirements are all met. 5 days ago, August 14th, was the last day of the 2-week period for our 2020 language survey. I want to thank all of the CUIAB staff that participated in this admittedly tedious tallying of this very important public contact data. I particularly want to thank those working in the virtual call center that had to categorically tally their contacts across the 14 different CUIAB offices that they're supporting through the call center. Lastly, there was discussion earlier about the heat warnings this week and that we were directed to close our offices at 3 p.m. And to piggyback on something member Kent Monning said about our staff dedication, I actually received emails and telephone calls from some support staff in the field saying, are you telling me I have to leave the office at 3 or can I really stay here? So we do have dedicated staff, and they were provided administrative time off for the time that they had to be out of the office. Additionally, related, yesterday Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency due to the many wildfires burning throughout the state. California Code of Regulations, provides administrative time off for state employees during that period if they meet one of the qualifying criteria. So CUIAB management has been made aware of this development in case any of our employees are impacted. Being a Napa resident, I actually have some friends of mine in the next room that were evacuated this morning. So I just want to echo what other people have said and say I hope that everyone is staying safe from yet another thing we need to try to stay safe from this year. And with that, that is my report.
Well, thank you, Rob. Sounds like things are very busy for your office right now, and please stay safe in these fires. Turn now to Vice Chair Reeves for any questions or comments.
I don't. Rob, thank you for your presentation.
Member Eng?
None for me, and thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you.
Member Allen?
Thank you, Rob. Stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
And Member Ken Monning?
Just big thank you, Rob, and I appreciate the detailed update with everything you're doing daily, pivoting on a dime, and to particularly note the language survey and how tedious that sounds, but I think we can all recognize the importance of understanding the information that yields to make sure that our agency continues to serve all different populations. So I really appreciate that and those who participated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, we move now to item 10 on our agenda. Mark Wusam, I believe, is going to handle this item. It's regards to revision of Appeals Board Policy Statement number 20. This will not be for a vote. This is not an action item, just a brief report from Mark, a brief update. Mark?
Yes, thank you, Chair Block and members of the board. I did want to update the board on the status of our proposed changes to Policy 20. And as a quick reminder, this was slight modifications to ensure that our weapons policy doesn't apply to our staff's homes when they're working from home now, largely telecommuting. We did provide the union's notice consistent with the board's vote last meeting, and we have received a request from SEIU to meet and confer on the impact of our proposed changes to the weapons policy. So we'll be reaching out to the Department of Human Resources, advising them that we've received that and requesting that we commence the meet and confer on impact on that.
Thank you, Chief Counsel Wusam. Any questions or comments for Mark, Vice Chair Reeves?
No, thank you, Mark.
Member Eng?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Member Allen?
No questions. Thank you.
Member Ken Monning?
Thank you, Mark. No questions.
Okay, that concludes our open session agenda. I don't have any closed session items for us to deal with today. Is there anything I've missed in open session? Nothing. We will adjourn this meeting. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good job.